Hello, everybody. My name is Steve Brown, and I'm going to take you through the process of creating your custom guitar body shape using a program called Inkscape. Uh, when we're finished with this process, then we would be taking this file into another program for driving the CNC router. So we begin here, though, with an image that is the guitar shape without the profile. So it has pickup pockets, it has neck pockets, it has some other elements. You can see this portion of a circle here and a portion of a circle here, as well as this kind of kidney bean shaped object. Those are what we call no-fly zones. So that's an area where you cannot create your guitar body shape because it will interfere with either the mounting positions on the CNC router or the electronics pocket that is on the back side of the guitar. So when we create our profile shape, we just want to avoid all of these areas that are predefined, and those areas are already cut on your guitar blank that you're going to be receiving, and all you will need to do now is to define the profile shape, which will be cut onto the CNC router. So you're going to start by opening up the program Inkscape. Then you're going to load up a file called Guitar Prep or Guitar Prep LH. The LH is for left hand. So I have the right hand version opened here on the screen. You'll also see a little red line in the corner here, and that line is just there to help us align your profile shape into the CNC software once we're completed. So don't delete that line. It's kind of important to us as we progress through in order to align your shape onto the guitar body when we cut it out on the CNC. You'll want to begin with not editing the actual file that you open, because you might need to go back and start with this one again, but instead go to Save As, and then save this file using your name in the file. So I'm going to call this one Steve1 and save that away. So now I'm editing a file called Steve1 instead of the guitar prep, and so that way it preserves your guitar prep file for you to use at a later time if you want to start again with a new one. And in fact, you're probably going to find that this is going to take several tries before you get what you want. So don't worry about that. That's very typical. This is the first time you've used the software most likely, and it could be a little clumsy for you, and it'll take a few tries before you get it right. So we've done the Save As. Now what I want to do is do a little bit of practicing with manipulating around the screen. So we call that zoom and pan. And so if you just press on your mouse wheel, that will allow you to pan around the screen. If you use the control key on the keyboard along with the wheel of the mouse, that will allow you to zoom. So you can zoom in on a particular area, pan around, then you can zoom out again using the control wheel. And when you're all done with that, you can simply hit the 4 key on the keyboard, and that will zoom your image to maximize on the screen. So as I said, you're looking at a 14 by 22 guitar blank. It's got the pickup pockets, the neck pockets, the no-fly zones, and so that's just a reference for you as you're creating your contour profile for your guitar. I'd recommend going out to Google, maybe Google electric guitar shapes, and see what's out there already. There are endless amounts of electric guitar body shapes out there, and so take a look to kind of inspire you a little bit. When you come up with your own, I would really avoid lots of fine detail in your shape, and also any internal cutouts. So we don't want to have any cuts inside of the guitar body. We're just talking about creating the cuts for the outside profile of the body. We want to leave it at that for your first guitar. You can get fancy with your next guitar, okay? So let's see here. So what we're going to do is to begin creating that profile shape. We're going to use a tool called the Bezier curve, draw Bezier curve and straight lines. You can also access that tool simply by pressing the letter B on the keyboard. Once you have accessed that or chosen that tool, we need to go into the mode area up here at the top, and you're going to choose this mode that's called Create Regular Bezier Path. So those are the two things that you need to do in preparation for what we're going to do. Two ways that you can create Bezier curves or lines. If you want to create single straight lines, you'll just use individual picks of the mouse, the left mouse button, and that will create a straight line between points. If you want a curve, then you're going to pick and drag the mouse in order to create the curve that you want. So I'll demonstrate that here for you. I'm going to start by snapping to, and it automatically snaps to the top of the neck pocket. I'm going to do an individual pick, and then I'm going to come over and do a second individual pick. So that's the only straight line that's required of your shape. And everything else can be curvy or combinations of curves and straight lines. So now I'm going to do a pick and drag, and you can see that it begins to create kind of a curvy shape for you. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to pick and drag again, and pick and drag again. And so what I'm doing now is I'm beginning to create the body shape that I want. And as I'm picking and dragging, you'll see that each one of the curves is tangent to the previous curve. And so I'm going to come across here and go around here. Now, if I pick on a point and I don't like the result of that, I can simply use the backspace key on the keyboard, and that will take me to the previous point, and I can try again. Okay. Don't get too concerned about getting the shape perfect the first time, because you're going to be able to go in and edit this to your heart's content once you have a basic shape in place. I'm going to come out here and make a little bit of a horn here, come out here, and again, I'm not being too picky about the final shape. And then when I'm all done, I want to make sure that I pick on the starting point that I started with. You see how it kind of turns that little point a solid red box. I want to click there, and then that's going to finish out the shape for me. So there is my electric guitar shape. And now what I can do is go in and do some work on this and get it to a more refined shape that I'd like. So to do that, we're going to use this tool in the upper left-hand corner. It's called Edit Paths, which can also be accessed using the N key on the keyboard. So when I choose that, I can see my path appears, and I have all of these what are called control points. These are the points that I actually picked when I defined the curves. They're also called nodes, so nodes or control points. And if I pick on one of those, you'll notice that I get the point is highlighted, and I also get some tangent handles. And this allows me to change the size of the curve and kind of the trajectory of the curve, if you will. So I can pick on the point itself and move that around. So I'm picking and dragging using the mouse. I can also pick on one of the Bezier handles, and you can see that I can adjust the curve. I can make the curve flatter or sharper. What I want to avoid, though, is a bow tie effect like that. We don't want our curve to cross over itself. Okay, so I can use these tools now to kind of go in and refine my curve the way that I want it to be. I can also take one of these control points or Bezier points and change its behavior. And so I have some tools across the top here. One of those tools is called Make Selected Nodes a Corner. So if I was to choose a node and pick on this button here, it will change it so that now you'll notice that those tangent points are not aligned with one another, and I can actually create a little bit of a point if I want. So I have now two tangents rather than one. So this allows me to go in and make a corner point on my guitar shape. If I change my mind and I don't want something to be a corner point, I can simply select it again, and then right next to that corner point tool is a Make Selected Nodes Smooth. So I can choose that, and it goes back to having two handle points, and I can continue to edit. So I can have smooth lines, smooth curves, or I can have sharp corner points if I choose. So that's these two tools up here. If I find that I need to refine the shape a little bit more, I can pick on a particular segment of the shape. So like if I picked right here, and then I can choose this tool that's up at the top that's called Insert New Nodes into the selected segment. So I can pick that, and you'll see that it adds an additional node and Bezier curve. So I can choose to refine the shape a little bit more. If I have a particular node, if I have too many, for instance, I could go in and select on that node and simply hit the delete key on the keyboard, and that node is gone. One area of the guitar shape that's actually a functional point on the guitar is this area right in here. And normally what we want to do is we want there to be a little bit of a void right in here that allows your hand to get in to the high frets. So you can curve your hand around and get into the high frets on the fretboard. Whereas if your curve is up into here, you wouldn't be able to get your hand, reach around your hand and get to those points. So we usually like to have a little cutaway right there for accessing the fretboard when we're playing. All right, let's see here. So I've talked about the pick and drag to create curves, manipulating the tangent handles, changing the nodes from sharp corners to smooth corners. So I have those options that are there. So I've created my shape. I've manipulated it. I like what it is. If you just get confused and not getting anything close to what you want, I'd recommend just starting fresh and trying it again, and eventually you'll kind of get the hang of it, and it'll work for you. So I just kind of picked out in space here to stop editing, and I can see there's my final shape that I want. I've steered clear of the no-fly zones. You can see that I don't have any shapes that are going through the no-fly zone. Be careful about that, because you can easily manipulate a tangent handle so that you get into that no-fly zone. So be careful as you're manipulating those tangent handles that doesn't happen. All right, so we finished out our shape. We've talked about editing the shape. We've talked about not crossing the shape over itself. And so now what I want to do is, we've talked about adding control points and that kind of thing. I want to talk about the final shape. If your shape gets out of control, delete it, start again. You need the practice. Once you have your final shape, it's time to prepare it for sending over to the CNC software. So I've just clicked out in space, so nothing is highlighted now. And I'm going to go over into this little dialog box area over here, and there's a button called Objects. And when I click on that button, what I'm going to be able to do is to see a listing of all of the objects that are in my design. Two of the objects that are shown here under this profile area are named path. Mine's named path 950. Yours could be something totally different, but you have two paths. One path is the shape you created. The other path is that little red line that we're going to be using for indexing later on. All of the rest of the elements are under what is called layer one. And this is how I set up the file to begin with. And I have lots and lots of items. And so as I pick on those different items, we can see, oh, those are all just the reference items that we started with. Okay. And those are all on this layer one. So what I want to do is I want to turn off that layer one because I don't want to cut those elements. I only want to cut my outside profile. So there's a little eyeball shape right here next to layer one. I'm going to click on that. And now what I have in the scene is just my profile shape and my index red line. So I'm all ready to go here. I've already saved this file as C1, but now what I want to do is I want to update that save. So I'm going to click on save again. And this is the file then that I would like you to send to me. And so in the PowerPoint that I provided to accompany this video, I've got an email address there, crcadprof, so crcadprof, CR because I worked at College of the Redwoods for about 30 years. So crcadprof@gmail.com is where you'll send this file. And then I'll take a look at it and make sure that it's going to work for our next process, which we'll do during your institute. And that is to bring your file into the CNC software, set up your body blank on the CNC, and then assign tool paths to the shape that you see here. So we'll do that. That's a very fast process, and we'll do that one by one with you during the institute. So our main thing that we want to worry about right now is that you've got this profile shape ready to go, saved into an Inkscape file. The file will be your name, and then it has a .svg file extension, and that's the file that we'll import into the CNC software. Okay, so that's all I've got for you right now. So I would just turn you loose, download the software, upload the file, and start practicing and come up with a shape, hopefully a lot better than my shape right here, that you'll want to cut out during the Institute. All righty, so thanks a lot, and we'll see you in Ohio here in a few weeks. Bye-bye.